Welcome to the Big Fat Gay Podcast, where we like to talk about the things that are weighing on our minds. My name is Michael. I am a chaser, and today I am a high-flying space boy. I'm so excited. On Monday, we are going to be running the first ever game of my my Space Thieves tabletop role-playing game. Don and Trevor are both in it. Dan's sitting there like, I'm so glad I'm not in it.
I have to say, I have only heard wonderful things about it.
Well, I'm excited. I cannot wait. And so that's me today.
My name is Don. I'm a big chubby guy living in sunny Hollywood. And today I am a Korean barbecue craving son of a bitch. Because it's just been on my brain. I'm going to a barbecue tonight and I have to find some Korean barbecue to bring. So it's going to happen. Life is good.
Oh, you're bringing...
I'm going to bring raw Korean barbecue to grill.
That sounds sexy.
Well.
I'm Dan Oliverio. I'm an author, public speaker, and official chubby chaser. I don't know. I'm just having a really nice sort of allergy-free day today. I'm working with that because I've been fighting a lot of allergies off and on. LA is not good for my respiratory system.
Ugh, that's terrible.
We went on that cruise. Oh my God. It was like a different world for me.
Out there in the fresh air where there are no plants.
And there's no plants and I could breathe. It was amazing.
I'm Trevor. I'm a super chub, and today I'm also kind of a space boy. I am excited for Space Thieves. I am excited to be a killer robot. It's gonna be a good time.
May or may not be a psychotic killer robot. We'll see.
Yes.
Who knows?
How close do you want to play to type?
I have to work on an Australian accent, which
Oh dear.
Oh my God.
I've done a little bit when I've been
mate.
It's going to be so good.
alone in the bathroom.
Yeah.
I'll bring you shrimp and kiwis.
I want kiwis. I love kiwis.
I haven't had kiwis in so long. Well, anyway, welcome to the show, everybody. Man, we're back in the same room once again, and it feels just as surreal this time to me as it did last week.
Yes, it does.
But it's very exciting. We are so excited. We have a good show. We have kind of it's going to be heavy, but it'll be good. And the bit promises to knock all your socks off. I've heard that from Don. He's looking at me like, wait, don't do that. Don't set it up.
Why are you over-promising, you son of a bitch?
Wait, you mean I brought extra socks for nothing?
But first up, so when Trevor sent this, so Trevor usually puts together our outlines and then we all talk about them and put it together. And when he first sent this, I read the headline. I was like, wait, what? And then I saw Japan and I was like, oh, okay. Naturally.
Japan, the Florida of the world.
Oh dear.
In so many ways.
In Sora News 24, we have, I just want to start with, new company seeks to change the image of being overweight in Japanese society, ... by renting out fat people. Discuss.
Yeah.
Well, now I asked this before and I don't remember the answer, or at least maybe I was confused. Is this company run by fat people, or is
Yes, it is for fat people, by fat people.
Please rent us.
The company is Debu Carry, from the words Debu, meaning fat, and Kariru, meaning rent. And you... There are different classes of fat person you can rent.
Oh, okay.
There's 100 kilograms.
Mm-hmm.
But they also have a category of over 125 kilograms and another one of over 150 kilograms.
Depending on your needs.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, depending on your fat person needs. So,
And we should say this is not sexual, is it?
No,
it's not. It is not an escort service.
Not an escort service, not sexual. I have so this is some of the search criteria you can use for the fat people you're trying to find. I want help eating a crazy large portion menu item at a restaurant.
What?
It's an emergency service. You get served too much food and you have to call in your fat person.
Well, no. So I think this is like when there's restaurants where it's like you and a friend can, try to eat this, 30-inch pizza in under an hour, and you can win. You don't have to pay for the pizza, and you can win $50 or something.
So bring your fat.
That would be the hypothetical.
Your rented fat person in to help smash local restaurants and make them lose all their money.
Okay.
Although I think what you spend renting the fat person, you might win the prize.
Meal that you would have otherwise paid for.
Even. But hey, you're giving fat people money. That's what's important.
That's
other criteria. I want help picking out a present for someone I know who's heavyset.
Oh,
that's valid.
Yeah.
That is valid.
Okay.
I'm doing cosplay and I want someone to dress as a heavyset character from the series.
Oh, you need someone. Like
I would
to partner
absolutely
with
be
you.
willing to do that. Yes.
Kind of like
okay.
who are the two Overwatch characters? It's
Roadhog.
yeah, Roadhog.
If I ever go to an Overwatch convention, that's the only costume on the table.
Have you seen the? There's a whole lot of fan art where they're a Chub Chaser couple. Have you seen that?
Yes.
I'm just going to point something out of the game real quick as a slight tangent. So, Junkrat and Roadhog are a team. They're a criminal team in the game, right?
Oh.
And then one of the maps takes place in their hometown, and you start in their hangout, right? In their where they live and they plan their heists. If you are attentive and you pay attention, there is only one bed, and it's very
this
large.
Explains so much because there's so much like Chub Chaser and Gainer fiction with those characters, but I didn't know they were characters. I didn't know it was fanfic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
And
Okay.
I think I've heard that before. I think Michael told me that, but yeah, so one bed. It's in there. It's actually kind of canon. They probably haven't said as much.
I've mentioned that in game to people while we were in the space. Some of them are like, no. There's another hideout that the other one lives in. I'm like, really? Because their stuff is everywhere.
Both of their stuff. One of them's just spending the night. That's all it is. He sleeps on the floor.
What are the other reasons?
You can also, I want someone to stand by me when I take a picture so I'll look thinner.
Yeah.
I want advice from a heavyset person. And the last one.
About what?
I want someone to play on a seesaw with me.
Oh, okay, that's adorable. I would grant that wish.
Well, but that no, I mean that only works if you are also a quote unquote heavy set person.
The seesaw works best when you weigh the same.
They're not saying only thin people will rent the fat people.
Well, that's true. It's buying 4 fat people.
That's
Okay.
If you always wanted to go on a seesaw and like the only way you could do it with like 2 other people on the other side and that makes you feel awkward, I will go on the seesaw with you. I promise.
Seesaws are so awkward with threesomes.
It's true.
They really are.
Debukeri charges $19 an hour for non-business use rentals. And the entire fee being paid goes to the fat person.
What?
Which is, can you imagine?
Really?
They
They
take
take no cut?
like $1 or $2 out of it to.
Well, I
for
think
admin
that
stuff.
might be because they specify non-business. So I think for business rentals, I think the company probably gets money.
Can I
from
just say business rentals?
So business
Oh
rental.
no, that's like Japan is the ones who invented rent a white person.
Oh, okay.
Well, so a rental is a rental, but the business rentals would be like an extra for a TV show or like needing like actual companies.
No, I
that
understand.
need a fat person.
I understand. I'm just sort of trying to wrap my head around.
But
like,
rent a white
business
person
use.
Rent a white person did specifically that for business. You could hire a couple white people that would come in suits and then sit at your table during your business meeting that didn't speak Japanese. And so your company would look internationally.
Perfect.
So I went to see Cruella.
Yes, we've all seen Cruella at this point, so we can finally talk about it.
Loved it.
Yes.
So yes. Oh my God.
It was a lot better than I was
Where to
expecting
start?
by a long shot.
Well, and I mean, I don't know about you, but I was expecting crap. So that wasn't, but it was so good.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's so okay. So
Spoilers for Cruella.
yeah,
if you haven't-
spoilers for Cruella. We're not gonna hold back here. So we have Paul Walter Hauser plays in a supporting role in it. That's sort of how it's related to the show. But let's just talk about the movie first. Like the movie, it is so. Can we just start with? I didn't realize how much about fashion it was going to be.
Yeah.
Like it's very Devil Wears Prada in a lot of ways, but maybe even more so. Like
it was
dialed up to
very
11.
much Disney does Devil Wears Prada.
And as a theater person, I really appreciated how much I kind of felt like I was watching a theater production because there's so much runway work and so much. There's a lot of stuff that happens about people in the space. Like everybody's at a mansion, everybody's at a fashion show. And so there's a lot of theatricality that's being filmed, which I was just.
And the way that the space is used in support of the scene, which I guess is what you mean, but like each space, it feels like an iconic location. You're not just in some place.
Yeah. Even like the rundown apartment that they live in.
Their heist home.
Yeah.
I think part of it was I felt like I wanted to be in that space with them.
Mm-hmm.
Although not so great things happen to them if they're in that space.
Yes. So my favorite costume in that movie was the garbage truck.
Oh my God.
Garbage.
Oh,
like,
gorgeous.
dress,
Gorgeous.
Which, I am a 101 Dalmatians kid. I don't know about you, Michael.
I certainly saw it a few times when I was a kid and I liked it. It was not our go-to Disney movie. So I remember it pretty well, but it wasn't like the one that we obsessed over.
It was like I completely obsessed. the point to where my mom almost got me a Dalmatian puppy.
Oh, this is a tragic tale.
Oh no.
So she was like,
is this a trigger warning story?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's that.
No, it's just part of the genre of what I call Trevor's tragic tales.
So my mom one day, I remember like she sat me down and she's like, okay, so if you were to get a, like, would you want a Dalmatian puppy? I was like, absolutely. And then like, okay, but like, that it's going to be a puppy and then it's going to grow up to be a dog, like a bigger dog. Cause I mean, the whole thing in 101 Dalmatians is the puppies. It's all about puppies. And I, being, the thoughtful child I was, said,
well, there's your version is your mother's version.
Yes.
Let's hear
so
Trevor's
my version is, if I ask for a puppy that stays a puppy, I will get that if I specify this. So I said, I want a puppy that stays a puppy.
And his mother heard, oh, what a responsible child. He knows he can't take care of an adult dog.
Oh.
And it's not like, I didn't know. I thought this was like all hypothetical. I didn't know. It's like, okay. Like,
you didn't know it would cost you a puppy.
Kill the dog.
Like somebody's on the phone in the back room and she just gives this sign. Like, and it's like, all right. What was that?
So Trevor did not get his Dalmatian puppy.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's why it's a Trevor's tragic
But I thought they did an amazing job kind of like taking a character who is just in every form of this story. Because I've also read the book by Dodie Smith. I mean, it is just like, she is evil. End of story. Like zero depth.
And I should say, Trevor spent months cogitating, how are they going to make Cruella a hero?
I know people who wanted to skip the movie for that reason, specifically because they didn't understand how they could possibly make a character sympathetic who wanted to kill puppies. And the answer is
they don't.
They don't have her want to kill puppies. Yeah. That's not who she is in that movie.
It kind of reminds me of Wicked, where how do you solve the problem of she can't get wet? Oh, well, it's a myth. She actually can.
Phrasing, Dan. Phrasing.
Get wet?
Okay, never mind.
Dan.
He's too gay. He's too gay.
See, now I'm picturing the Wicked Witch of the West in an Astroglide commercial. Thank you, Dan.
I don't know. I just defying gravity.
Cut in that iconic climax sound, please.
So if you care to find me, look to the western skies.
I also think that Cruella is the first one of their sort of the trend of villains becoming heroes in prequels. But I think this is the first one that really landed it. I mean, Wicked did too. But as far as the movie genre goes, I felt for the character. I liked the character. I wasn't always there with her with what she was doing.
Yeah.
But
they made her flawed, like obviously.
Oh yeah,
very much made her flawed. I thought what they did really, really well was they walked the line between giving you the fun, psychotic manicness of that kind of villain, but also allowing her to be a real person where you could understand why she is the way she is, and she has to go through the typical hero's journey of failing before she can succeed at the end, and part of that is her morality.
I don't know if you remember this. There was a point where I like paused the movie and I was like, oh, I'm like, it's Joker for girls and gay men.
I think that. I think it's.
That's an interesting idea.
If that,
like Cruella dancing down the stairs.
They definitely took some inspiration, I think, but I think that's also misleading because I know people who hated Joker because it was so dark and dismal and grim, who have heard that comparison and are skipping the movie because they are thinking it's going to be grim and dark. And it's really not.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not. It is sinister at times.
Yes.
Which is,
but
which
in
is
a
lovely.
Disney way.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah.
And
it is Disney dark. That's a good way of putting it.
It's
When I go out, can you call me Cruella? If you saw, come on, that's funny. It's someone who saw Joker's laughing at that.
Well, and to transition to Paul Michael, is it Paul Michael Hauser?
Paul Walter Hauser.
Paul Walter. I can never remember all of his names at the same time.
Yeah, all 10 of them.
Because
Trevor has about 5 different versions of his last name.
But the fun part is that Jasper and what's the other Horace. They're like the voice of reason in the movie, which is like hilarious.
And they're her family.
And they're her family.
They're her moral grounding.
Yeah, and it's really great to see those roles amplified. And Paul Walter Hauser, Oh, I got it. Is just wonderful.
He's so good. So what I liked, and Don and I actually disagree with on this. Like we haven't really discussed it. We started to, and we saved it for the show. So I'll start with my take on Paul Walter Hauser playing Horace, who, if you remember the animated movie, he's like the fat, bumbling, dumb stereotype of a sidekick villain.
What do you mean he's fat?
He's the fat guy.
Yeah.
And in this movie, what I felt, and we'll talk about it, was that they took the inspiration of that and modernized it, made him a real character. I felt he was smart. I felt that he was a problem solver, that he actually came up with his own ideas. He was fucking hilarious. Like, he was really funny, both the performance from Paul, but also the writing for the character. I really liked him, except for the way that they handled food and eating.
To be fair, they put that off as long as possible. I mean, they have to have the fat guy eating, and they managed to put it in just the last third of the movie.
And so the director of Cruella is also the director of I, Tonya.
Yes.
And
which we've talked about.
We've talked about. So I felt the director treated him much better. I mean, it's still like, I'm still offended, but it's like, it's better. He's,
in I, Tonya, he was a pretty bad stereotype.
And so I disagree with you on this one. Like, I don't think he was portrayed as being especially smart. Even dumb people can come up with solutions from time to time. His mannerisms still sort of oozed dumb to me. I think it was a better take on the original character.
I think it says,
but I think they were tethered to the original character in a way they couldn't shake all of that stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's still got to be the comedic relief Cockney accent speaking and side character. Like I'm
not offering up a different way that it could have been done. I think they were locked into it, and I think it's the best possible version.
So why did you think he wasn't smart? I'm just curious, because I felt like that was the thing that hit me first and foremost, was like, oh, he's coming up with these elaborate schemes that are working, and they're like successful thieves, and he's got all these capers, and he improvises in the moment and is able to make it work. What didn't work about that for you?
I didn't pay that much attention while I was watching the movie. I was watching it as a whole, not focusing it on him. So I'm afraid I don't remember specifics.
What kind of chaser are you? Wait, you're not.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wasn't focused on that character. You know?
Yeah, Michael and I were
I wasn't feeling I wouldn't want to play that character. I can tell you that much.
Well, I think
it's like,
perhaps what you're reacting to, he's not a terribly articulate character. But I think Michael is right that he comes up with a lot of stuff. I never saw it in terms of smart and dumb. Like, it never occurred to me, like, is he smart? Is he dumb? What I kept looking at was, he is really practical. Well, like, he ignores anything that is not mission focused.
The thing I remember is they emphasized his sweetness by giving him the dog, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so by making him sweeter, you make him more likable. You know, you can make it more, people can connect to someone who likes pets.
Yeah.
You know,
I didn't give a crap about that. He was hot.
Well, so I liked how they handled the physicality of the character, because, you know, a lot of times you have the fat character who's also bumbling and clumsy and funny because
can't fit through the door, can't fit through the opening.
Right, tripping over themselves. And there's many scenes where that doesn't come up, but also in particular, there is a scene where he and Horace, who's like tall and thin, rappel down from the ceiling to do something in the middle of a caper. And it's the typical like wide shot, the ropes fall in, and then both characters like slide down the ropes, and you are just waiting for him to fall and hit his head.
Yeah, some sort of pratfall with the fat
Or
character.
I was expecting him to get stuck halfway down.
Or get stuck halfway, and nothing. No, they both land and they both pull off the caper, and that's that. And he's funny in many other ways, particularly in his delivery of lines, I thought.
Yeah. But I mean, I didn't dislike the character enough to rage against him. I wouldn't hold him up as an example for
but it's like
my
with
fat son or something.
No, it's like what Trevor says. It's like, it's something, it's better.
And I liked the character, and from the promotional stuff, I had a sense, I'm like, this is going to be better, but I really don't know how much better. And like, I don't know. I liked how they handled the character, and I was very nervous knowing the director of I, Tonya and how he treated fat characters before.
Yeah, and they had every opportunity. It would have been so easy not to have done anything to that character, except maybe he likes puppies and that makes him likable, but everything else is identical to the animated movie. They could have easily done that.
I had something and then I lost it and then I got it back. So I was watching how they were going to treat Horace and food, because of the director with I, Tonya and everything, as we've talked about in the past. And Dan and I have kind of talked about this recently because we've been watching The Nanny.
Oh, yeah.
And the character of Sylvia and all the fat jokes around her and the food jokes. And we were saying like, we should find all the jokes around Sylvia offensive, but there's something about the way, Renee Taylor performs the character in all these jokes. And I think it's because, and there's a lot of stuff with horse and food and a few things where I'm like, but I wasn't really offended. I think it's because some of the jokes about food with Horace would still work with a thin character.
Yeah. I was
like when he's like
that.
stealing scones, it's because, they live in an empty warehouse and they're thieves and like,
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And I think that's something that, I don't know, I'm more aware of just because we've been watching.
Yeah, it's almost like the test for a fat joke is if you replaced it with a thin actor, would it still be funny? And yeah, like in the case of The Nanny, yes, it still works because it's really about food and overconsumption.
Yeah.
And in the case of Horace, the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's practical. He needs the scones.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I hadn't thought about it that way, but that makes total sense.
It's interesting. I've been watching a lot of Asian TV lately. And I've noticed they have the same thing. They have they have a food fixated character most of the time, but they're never fat in the shows that I've watched.
Exactly.
And the jokes still work. It's usually like a young, pretty woman who just eats everything in sight always,
And part of the joke is like she doesn't gain weight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like we can't move off this discussion without at least mentioning Emma Thompson's freaking amazing performance.
Genius. And Emma Stone, but Emma Thompson also.
Emma Stone was great.
I didn't even realize it was Emma Thompson.
Yeah.
Someone was talking about Emma Thompson. I don't know if it was you or someone else, but Emma Thompson in the movie. And I was so confused. I was like, oh, like Emma Thompson. And I was thinking, and then I realized I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
if this were a different podcast, if this were like a theater podcast, we could have a 30-minute discussion of just the craft and technique of what Emma Thompson is doing in that movie. Oh my God.
The subtlety that she delivers, so much stuff that she could have gone huge with if she wanted to.
It's genius.
And it would have been a whiff. To me, this puts her right up there with Meryl Streep's performance in Devil Wears Prada. It ties together the comparison.
I agree with you completely.
And they're so different. That's what it was very
it was
enjoyable.
not a copy.
They're completely distinct from each other. They're very different characters also, even though functionally they serve the same role in their sort of environment. But yeah, and I also want to throw a shout out to Emma Stone because so Trevor mentioned that he's a huge fan of the animated movie. I had seen the animated movie a few times as a kid. I haven't seen it for at least 20 years. Don't really remember more than just the basic plot points. And when Emma Stone is introduced in the movie, they have the young version of her, played by a different actress. And then she grows up, she sort of stands up and it doesn't look anything like Cruella. It's just Emma Stone in like a wig, so she can cover her black and white hair. And then when she turns and walks away, and you see sort of her back and her shoulders and her posture as she leaves the frame, I was like, holy shit, that's Cruella. It just immediately, and there's no moment written in that scene that would require anything for you to identify, oh, that's Cruella. It was just her character. But it's the way that she inhabits the character, the way that she walks, the way that she holds her shoulders, the scene of her driving in the car when she's in the getaway car. It is uncanny. I mean, the filming also really helps with that too, but just her posture, her face, her look, the boniness of those shoulders, it just all fed into this iconic image. I think the only thing they didn't have was her height. Because in the animated movie, Cruella's enormous. She's 7 feet tall.
Yeah, she towers like a beanpole. Yeah.
But I really loved Emma Stone's performance as well.
I agree.
Well, now that we've spent 25 minutes on Cruella.
So, we talked about food jokes, which will send us straight into Fat Watch. So cue that beautiful bean.
Beautiful
Fat bean music. Is it Fat Watch?
It's Fat Watch 2021. Yay. It's actually it feels a little more like Fat Watch now that we're going into tropical storm season.
Why is that, Trevor?
It's Fat Watch.
Oh, like Hurricane Watch.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I always imagine Fat Watch is I picture the very dramatic logo that comes onto screen because we have Fat Watch News. Interrupting your programming.
Like local news. Okay.
Yeah. It's like breaking news.
Yeah. So I saw this post from Aubrey Gordon, aka your fat friend, talking about she shared a thread about diabetes jokes, and this is from the Beta Cell podcast, which is a diabetes podcast, and she thought it was really important. So she said, "Read this whole thread. Diabetes jokes made by people who aren't diabetic are overwhelmingly sorry."
Yeah, it's truncated weirdly. She's listing things,
Yeah.
so they overwhelmingly perpetuate harsh judgments about diabetic diabetic people fundamentally misunderstand an incredibly complex illness and are a sneaky way to make fat jokes. Also aren't original or funny, which I don't know that I've heard a ton of diabetes jokes, but I accept that they exist.
Well, and they're usually not meant as jokes.
exist.
They're meant as digs. They're meant as and
insults.
Yeah, they're absolutely meant as insults because it hides behind a lot of stuff. It hides behind, number one, healthism, and number two, there is a lot of myths about diabetes, even among fat people. And the most prominent myth is that you can give yourself diabetes, that diabetes is something that you do to yourself, not a disease that happens to you, like, let's say, cancer.
And therefore fits in perfectly with the narrative that you are to blame for making yourself fat and you need to stop doing that.
And all fat people are diabetic or will be diabetic. That's another myth that's inherent in the diabetes trope, that all fat people are diabetic or will be diabetic, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
You hear that, doctor? You do not need to test me for diabetes every time I come in.
Exactly.
I think it's also, I've noticed more and more, in the fatosphere, including Aubrey Gordon, talking about fat people pushing fat phobia by doing the whole thing. Well, like, my blood works great.
Right.
Well, because it's the defense for what they're being hit with.
Yes, but that it's creating this narrative that, I'm worthy of respect because my blood works good. Whereas, and it's not intended that way, but it kind of just creates this cycle of
it keeps promoting that healthism.
healthism.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that
instead of saying something like, "Why is that relevant?"
Yes.
Because if they had some other disease, if they had if they had toe fungus or cancer, they wouldn't have to say, well, my cancer's in remission. It's okay. Stop making fun of me. Stop making fun of my cancer.
Right.
Like no one would ever have to do that.
You would. Yeah, exactly. The thread is incredibly informative too, by the way. It's fairly lengthy and you can sort of update your pre-existing ideas of what diabetes is and is caused by. I didn't know, I would say a third of the stuff that she mentioned about the disease itself. And so I think that in and of itself was just informative and helpful.
I got to say, I was just shocked to find out that there were people out there making diabetes jokes. I've literally never heard one, but I guess I don't really run in crowds that tend to use derogatory jokes about anyone.
Well, it's weird because it's not, there are jokes, but it's also like
it's like a snide remark.
It's like when there's a like ridiculous food thing, like anything from TGI Fridays.
Yep.
No offense to TGI Fridays, but like the Evel Knievel level of like, it's a donut burger and you can also get a 2-pound bucket of fries with it. They actually have a whole like carnival themed menu that's off the rails.
Oh boy.
But that, and people are like, oh my God, like I'm just getting diabetes from looking at that menu.
I have heard that.
Exactly.
I have heard that.
Or I had an ex who used to talk about Kool-Aid as diabetes juice.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I got to say that's not on my radar.
Yeah.
All of this is completely new to me.
I don't know. It's just very little things. And
I've definitely heard that microaggression of like, oh God, I'm getting diabetes just looking at that.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, it's a cup of diabetes if it's like a
yep.
soda or something.
And that's kind of what is being referred to here.
Yeah.
And I got to say, this isn't just some political thing that we invented, like, stop railing on diabetics and fat people. But you know who says you can't give yourself diabetes? The American Diabetes Association. So it's really orthodox medicine that no, you can't give yourself diabetes. And you can see this if you've ever looked at, these people who are like thin as rails and survive on a diet of like candy and Twizzlers.
Mm-hmm. Well, I suppose that hauls us unwillingly into our main subject.
Oh, you make it sound so dire.
Yeah.
Well,
we got you all amped up with Cruella, and then we pulled the lever and take you into Bummer Town.
Not that lever.
So I think Dan should set this up because he discovered it and was, I don't know.
Today's Hell is brought to you by Dan.
I was irate. So usually I am a huge fan of NPR. And yesterday I ran across this story on Morning Edition where they talked about, it was Christina Noguchi is the reporter, and she's doing a story which, and I don't think I'm misstating this, it's basically talking about how not enough fat kids are getting bariatric surgery.
That's exactly what it's doing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's really that, there's this wonderful solution to adolescent obesity called bariatric surgery. And just the terrible stigma and roadblocks that people throw up from more teenagers getting their stomachs amputated.
And so many kids qualify, and not enough of them are getting it.
Yeah, and by the way, qualify means they're fat.
Right.
That's the qualification, because the qualification is of course based on, well, and this is my other quibble with the story, is based on basal metabolic index. There is no such thing as basal metabolic index. They are confusing BMI, body mass index, with BMR, basal metabolic rate. But the story doesn't care about that because they're fat.
What?
Who cares? They're fat. They should get their
poorly
stomach
researched.
amputated.
Yeah, that's just a flaw.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and believe me, Don, I wrote a strongly worded letter on all of this. I actually did.
Yeah, no, he did.
As well you should.
Trevor couldn't talk to me for like 2 hours. I was composing this strongly worded letter. And my problem with it not because, I know that the comeback is going to be, well, this is a science article and you're dealing with the politics of it. And number one, that's the same thing. And number two, there's a huge problem. Like, scientists are people and they are just as subject to fat phobia as other people. And I mention this because they talk about like the, guess what? The outcomes are seen as positive because they only measure the outcomes by what's their blood sugar now. They don't look at all the other facets of their life, or the fact that they have to run to the bathroom now, or the fact that some people are perfectly fine having their stomachs amputated if they can fit in with society better.
Well, and one of the people there's two women they talk about. One who I thought it was.
There's just the one shining example of this woman who had the surgery, and now her life is perfect.
I thought there was the younger woman and then an older woman. Is it the same woman?
It's the same woman.
Okay. Well, but the point is talking about how she no longer feels hunger and needs to set reminders to eat because she no longer that's just gone.
That sounds natural.
My biggest, thing reading the article was, we're seeing a lot of conservative states, red states, whatever, pushing anti-trans legislature and saying kids are too young for, they're too young. This is terrible. We can't let children be exposed to this. We can't let them have gender reaffirming surgery. We can't let them intermingle because this is so terrible. And what about the children?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what do they know? They're children.
Right.
There are doctors that are saying like children should not be having weight loss surgery. The risks far outweigh the benefits. Like, this is not something that we should be doing.
Which is not presented in the article at all. The article completely stays out of any sort of controversy. It presents it. They interview only bariatric surgeons and quote statistics that don't take other things into consideration.
Yeah. And also,
so it sounds valid.
Well, it sounds valid. They have this nonsense they call it, again, BMI, but they get BMI wrong. And I point out in my strongly worded letter that BMI is already discredited as a health statistic.
Right.
By itself. And so it's the article, I really pushed the point that this is just propaganda. If you were going to write an ad for bariatric surgery focused at teens, this is what it would be the infomercial.
Yeah.
And very few teens that I can't think of a single teen story. And I haven't watched a lot of what are the ones 600-pound life things.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard about many teens that have severe health problems because of their weight.
It is a thing.
Okay.
But I think also just like in general, science does not look at, okay, someone is fat, they have all these issues. It's clearly because of the fat. They don't look at, there's other things going on with the body, like in terms of, I feel like Dan can speak to this because of his.
Here's the thing. If it was really just about the fat, then liposuction should cure diabetes.
Right.
If it was really just about the fat, then it would there'd be all these other things that happen too. But they actually, and the article does go into the fact that this is not about you amputate the stomach and therefore make it smaller and therefore you don't get hungry, because it's actually not a mechanical solution. What happens is that when you take out part of the stomach, you take out a lot of receptors and change the complete hormonal balance of the body, and that is what causes the dramatic weight loss. And there are many other side effects. I know people who've had weight loss surgery who completely change their tastes in food, go from loving coffee to hating coffee. People who suddenly have a 5-fold increase in testosterone and lose their hair.
Whoa.
Just because all the hormonal balance is thrown off in the body.
Common.
But they're thin, so really does that matter? I mean, that's the approach here.
The thing that killed me about it, I mean, in an article full of stuff like that, it was the casual dismissal of the $20,000 price tag of that kind of surgery, which they weighed against the guaranteed future health risk. Basically, all of the future consequences of your fatness will cause further health costs that will far outweigh the $20,000 that you have to pay now as a child or your parents.
And then using that as why insurance companies should pay for bariatric surgery for children. Because think of the savings.
Right. It's an investment.
I mean, that's going to lead us into a complete tangent I don't want to go down as far as funding goes, because right now, if you want to talk the actual money of it, kids are still on their parents' insurance, right? That means they have good insurance until they're age 26. Once they're on their own, most of the people are going to have shitty ass insurance that is in no way ever going to cover anything, you know? And I want to jump in here because I feel like some of the stuff we've just said, I feel like we're shitting on people who've had bariatric surgery. And like, that is not an easy decision for anyone to make.
No, it is not.
No. And that is, I will be the sole voice saying this, I guess, that is a legitimate choice for some people to make.
Yes.
If that is your choice, that is something you have to decide on your own. But it's something you need to spend a lot of time thinking about because there's a lot of bullshit reasons being forced on people to get it as well. Right.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Don. And I don't mean to denigrate any of that. It is a huge, huge decision. And it is something that if you are 600 pounds or trapped in your body, bariatric surgery is a't to not be that. And and diet and exercise ain't going to cut it. That's true. Or it will, but for a while, and then most people regain the weight. There's a huge unsuccessful rate. On the other hand, what this article does is one of the benefits of bariatric surgery for this woman is that, you know, she felt so much more comfortable dating. And in fact, there's an allusion to this. And again, there's so many opportunities in this article that were missed in terms of fat phobia and how this is rammed down people's throats. But there's a thing in the article where this woman who's held up as the poster child for adolescent bariatric surgery, she says that, you know, when she lost the weight, all of a sudden all these men suddenly became available to her, and her friends had to caution her because she would now fall in love with any man who gave her attention, and she had to learn to pull that back. And it's like, that is a huge subject of itself.
If that's the argument, right? If that's the argument being put forward, I'm curious if she would also support plastic surgery for teens, like breast implants, calf implants.
Well, you know, they're always going to hide behind the barricade of health. Like, oh no, it's just for health. It's really for health reasons.
But that's not what she's saying.
No, but that's the real reason. I mean, I'm agreeing with you, but I'm just saying that
it's not the argument that's being put forward. Exactly. According to the argument being put forward, breast implants for young kids, or penis enlargement, or eye color changing should all be acceptable things to force on your kids because it's good for them.
The primary focus of what we're reacting to regarding Don's point from earlier is really specifically in this case that it is targeted towards children and the parents of those children saying, hey, you know what would really improve your life is if you weren't fat anymore. Let's cut out that
targeting
stomach.
People that are currently under the control of other people, right? Well, and convincing those parents that this would be a good thing for you to give your child and force on your child if their being fat makes you uncomfortable. That's my issue.
I should say here that that's not what's going on in this particular case, which is kind of what makes it even more interesting.
In the case of the interviewee.
In the case of the interviewee, so, you know, they talk about how the doctor was always getting on the mother's back for letting her daughter get so fat. And so the kid's always on diets, and the doctor's always is always, wringing their hands about how fat she's getting. And the parents from the get-go are 100% against the bariatric surgery. The child wants it desperately. And the parents say, no, we're not doing that to you. And the child waits until she's 18 and tells her mother the night before the surgery, guess what I'm doing? And then has it. So this is one of the few cases, or I don't know, it's a case where the parents are not pushing it. It's really that it's been sold to the child as this panacea.
Yeah. And and her story is treated as the success story.
Yes,
and like
yes.
the parents were essentially the barrier in the way of her success.
And as an example, because the point of the article, as I said at the beginning, is the point of the article is, fat kids aren't getting enough bariatric surgery, and you see these parents are one of the obstacles,
one of the problems. Related.
Nowhere.
No. So so we had settled on this for our main topic, and then yesterday I got a text from a listener of the show, who was hanging out with his girlfriend, who has a niece and nephew, I think. And their parents had asked him and his girlfriend to read them a book, a bedtime book, and they're young. And the book that they were given by the parents.
I hate to give this oxygen because I don't want to. I want this book to fail and burn in flames.
Oh, well, should we just not talk about it? Or
I think we should talk about it, but I don't think you need to mention the title, maybe.
Okay. Well, the title of the book is something kind of gross and derogatory, and is used to refer to the fat kid, the fat character in the book. And it's essentially a really, really blunt fable about how being fat will make you depressed, mean, and friendless.
Yes, but you can go on a juice cleanse.
Right.
And the book doesn't go into juice cleanses, but the author is a juice cleanse person. They're also an anti-vaxxer. I did research after Michael sent us.
Oh yeah,
this.
she has a whole line of juice products and juice books, and
which is just basically enormous amounts of sugar she's pushing. Then
yes, but remember, it's good sugar, not bad sugar from junk food.
It's the kind of sugar that'll make you shit your pants, Don.
Good sugar, yes, good sugar makes you crap. I haven't read the book, but from what I can discern, it's all about getting kids to stop eating what's referred to as junk food.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And, the hero of the story is like Juice Guy, and it's a little ridiculous. But my point is that the oppression comes in the illustration, because you could have drawn, if junk food kid had been drawn as thin, this would be a whole different book.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And to be fair, if you're trying to get kids to stop,
if he stayed fat.
Yes.
Or if he stayed fat.
And which neither of those things happen.
Yeah.
Because he gets converted, eats healthy, in quotes, and then loses all of his weight, and how great a thing that is because he now has friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I feel, again, like this is something to pressure parents to feel bad about their child. It's because they're the ones who provide the food generally. It's like blaming the parents. If you have a fat child,
I think it does both.
I wonder, because
I think it does both.
I think it's actually the way it's sold, because I went to the website. The way it's sold is, given that we know your child is a failure, how are we going to fix this?
Yeah.
Well, this book will help you. It's not to convince parents that their child is terrible because they're fat. The parents already know that. That's where you start.
No, it's to convince the parents that they're terrible parents because the child's fat.
It's to give a solution to the problem of having a fat child.
That was stuff that's something I had to live with when I was a kid. I was a fat kid with two parents that hit. My mother was the second runner-up for Miss Pan America when she was young. My dad was a professional actor and model when he was young.
Oh, yeah.
And I think having a fat kid was something they were always uncomfortable with.
I think the word you're looking for is ashamed of.
As soon as someone else pointed the finger about that, that's when they got very reactive, and that's when stuff started rolling downhill at me. So this is the exact stuff that I grew up with that caused hell.
So you don't think they naturally thought that a fat kid was a problem? They had to have it pointed out?
I don't think they would have thought it was a critical problem, and I don't think it was something that they ever would have thought of reflecting on them as directly as people made it.
Okay.
So it made my body their problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the best way I can explain it.
Yep.
So, I mean, obviously, if you want to look this up, I suppose you can. Don't support this any more than you have to, even with hits to her website. The end of the story, at least in this case, is that my friend and his girlfriend they may or may not have done this on their own, but they are listeners of the show, and they immediately said, this is a bad book. Here's why. Don't read this to your kids. And he wrapped up by saying, we're trying our own method of making them think differently. So yeah, don't do that. Parents of the podcast.
And there's our tip.
Don't fucking do that.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of these things that are supposed to be helping kids with their body issues causes body issues.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things that you need to go back to is there is no child that has ever died of obesity, but there are hundreds of thousands of children who have died of eating disorders.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe put your attention there.
And a reminder, in case I would hope that we wouldn't need this, but the things you do and say to your kid will last. They will absorb that and it will hit them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. I'm sure we all have a story like this, but I heard a story recently about a kid who was very, very, very poor when they were growing up. They had their friend over and the friends wanted to have a sleepover. And so the guest called his mom and said, hey, can I have a sleepover with my friend who's very poor? He didn't say that, but the mom, the kid overheard the mom respond with, no, just tell her no, we don't want roaches and lice in our house. And that just that one sentence created like a lifetime of obsessive compulsive disorder, cleaning obsessively and having all kinds of self-worth reflected in that person's living environment and being obsessed with being as clean as possible, and the level of hurt that comes back every time she's reminded of that one moment when she was 7 years old. And like, it doesn't take much if you're not careful. I mean, in that case, it was an accidental something she overheard, but even still.
No, but I mean, literally, that is the age where you're absorbing everything like a hyper sponge, because that's the age where the world is telling you what you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to see yourself as.
Or not be.
Yeah.
Don't be fat. Don't be fat. Don't be poor. That's the message.
Right.
Stop it.
Don't be anything that's not thin, straight, and white.
Now that I'm depressed, let's move on to our tip.
Okay.
We'll lift you up, we promise.
So this tip,
Don,
is
it's all on
interesting.
you.
God damn it. What another tip?
I actually got an interesting tip from a Facebook group, and it was a fat woman, a super fat woman, talking about going to her sister's place, and her sister always wants her to take off her shoes, and she has a hard time getting her shoes on and off. And she's like, I can't find, slip-on shoes that fit well. But a friend suggested shoe covers, which people may be more familiar with because of the pandemic. Basically, little kind of disposable or recyclable covers that go over your shoes. Some even come in little boxes where you can step in and they'll just like go like, flop.
I love those.
yeah.
I love those.
Really? That's clever.
Yeah.
Oh, it's genius.
And, so she's like, I have a box of them, and now whenever I go over, I just pop them on and I, recycle them when I'm done. And it's amazing and a total game changer. And that's just, I don't know, something I wouldn't have thought of. And I think could be useful for, I don't know, a listener or a listener can pass it along.
Just don't have white carpets at your place. You'll be fine. Just let people wear their shoes.
Well, it's interesting. So like, I know like shoes on, shoes off is a very polarizing thing for people. Growing up, my mom wanted people to keep their shoes on in our house because we had slippery wood floors, and she was more concerned about like a kid slipping in their socks and falling as opposed to like their, little rubber bottom shoes scuffing up floors.
Well, and I know a lot of super chubs have that fear of walking around in socks. They're going to slip.
Yeah, we did give the
which the bomb buster for.
Yes.
Yeah, I got some for Michael for Christmas, and
Aren't
he
they
wears
great?
them constantly.
Yeah, they're basically socks with treads. I don't remember what episode we talked about them, but
It was our fat for it
for it
things.
Yeah, our
in the
fat-
beginning of December 2019.
they're called Bombas is the brand name. BOMBAS.
Yes.
Anyway, just
Try that out
Shoe
someday.
covers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
or
if you are a person who is a no shoes household with fat people in your life, maybe consider picking up a little box of those swamping shoe covers.
Nice.
So today we're going to do our Big Fat Gay Podcast in Review segment. So I've got 4 limericks here referring to pieces that we have done in the past in some way.
Okay.
And we'll have to see if people will have to buzz in. And we're all going to be able to buzz in at the same time now. I'm going to be able to see you when you buzz in.
Yeah.
It's exciting. All right. Are we ready?
Okay.
Yes.
For the first one. Though buying them might make you a debtor, they're cheaper to make, even better. But for guys that are bigger, you must research with vigor for patterns large enough for a...
My mind went to bedwetter, but that's not it.
Trevor.
Knit sweater, the knitting patterns.
Yes, the sweater knitting patterns. All right, limerick 2. To refuse the vaccine makes a wingnut with a stupid, ill-fitting, bad crew cut. If you want a nice treat, enjoy something sweet. Get the
Buzz.
shot and enjoy a free Trevor.
Krispy Kreme donut.
Yes. So I believe that's actually still going. If you go in with proof, you can get a donut.
I think it continues to the end of the year.
Yeah.
I believe that's the case.
2021.
All right. Limerick 3.
Bring it on.
Though some assholes might try to scoff. See their pics and haters back off. Those shots don't annoy any horny playboy. Oh my, it's... All
Can you repeat it?
Yeah. I can.
Yeah.
Though some assholes might try to scoff. See the pics and haters back off. Those shots don't annoy any horny playboy. Oh my, it's Haley Hasselhoff.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I forgot her name, but I'm bad with names anyway. That was good.
So Haley Hasselhoff was
she was the model on the cover of Playboy.
Yep, and daughter of was it David Hasselhoff?
Yes, and plus size model. We should
plus size.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry. Eventually, we'll just get to be able to say model.
So some stunning pictures about her that we covered. So go check them out if you haven't seen them yet. All right, our final limerick. Though we do love traveling, it's true. If you don't attend, we'll all be blue. At the end of September,
Oh, Buzz.
best Bayou. Your member and join her for host at
The Big Bayou.
Yay!
Huzzah!
It's actually the start of September. I got that wrong.
It's actually the end of August. But
At the start of September, best warm up your member and join your for host at Big Bayou.
Just be there on September 4th at noon. That's all that really matters.
because that's us.
That's us. That's when we'll be there. We'll meet you guys. And what a treat for you.
For our live broadcast. Recorded.
Can I just say, this is a total random side tangent, but I love that whenever we all cheer in unison, I don't have to go edit it together so that it actually sounds in unison. It's the small things.
So thanks for spending another hour with the Big Fat Gay Podcast.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed yourself. Now, what if they wanted a little bit more Big Fat Gay Podcast? Just in theory.
Where would
the music's starting.
Where would they go?
I'm putting on my little shoe covers and I'm leading everyone along. We're on Twitter and Instagram as @BigFatGayPod. Sorry. I doubted myself.
It happened.
That possibly end.
He's been so good
We're
for so
on
long.
Twitter and Instagram as @BigFatGayPod. We're on Facebook as the Big Fat Gay Podcast. Leave us 5 stars there. Leave us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and
Podchaser.
See all the articles we talked about at www.bigfatgaypod.com. Yay! Maybe you're also wearing your shoe covers and you're running. We're going. We're running.
We're just running.
We
Running
gotta
straight
get to the
into Big
airport.
Bayou.
Yeah, we gotta get there. Airport. Come on.
Go.
It's leaving.
Like, we gotta take off our shoes to go through airport security.
But the floors are slippery, so
Yeah, watch out.
Yay.
Yeah.